That Sober Guy podcast contains adult content, merciless truth, and emotional nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
I'm Shane Raymer. You're listening to That Sober Guy podcast, and we help people stay sober. If it's your first time listening, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here today. If you're looking to quit or cut back on your drinking, we have lots of resources. We have one of the best 30-day alcohol-free challenges out there as well. You can sign up today and you can check out all of our podcasts, other resources by going to thatsoberguy.com. You can also contact us there and then connect us on Instagram at That Sober Guy Podcast. Really excited for today's episode. Our guest today is my good buddy and all-out legend on a Telecaster guitar, that is, Mike Tuck. I think it's a Telecaster. I'll have to verify that with Mike, but I'm pretty sure that's right. The pink one in particular is the one that I like. But let me give you a little background about Mike before I formally introduce him. He's a musician based in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and is currently on tour with three-time Grammy-nominated artist Pat Green. Mike has worked with country music artists Clay Walker, Neil McCoy, Rick Trevino, Jake Worthington, many, many more. And he's also served in the United States Air Force out in Fairfield, California. It's not too far from here, actually, from Vacaville. And most importantly, in the main context we're going to chat about today, currently has 13 months of sobriety under his belt. So we're definitely going to get into that and see what's working for Mike and how he's doing today. So, Mike, it's great to have you on the podcast today, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
Man, thanks for having me. I didn't know you did the intro live every single time, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps on the post-production end, number one. Just try to produce the whole thing live so I can turn it and burn it. And then, as well, it's nice to get the energy up and give the guest a nice introduction and have a little fun with it. So, yeah. Yeah. So I did get that right? It's a Telecaster. You're shredding a Telecaster.
That's right.
Yeah, so I gotta say, and I think it's let's see, I put the link in here. We'll put all the links in the show notes today for anything we talk about. But if you want to follow Mike on Instagram, it's Mike Teletuck, and the link's in here, and you can see Mike shredding some of that Telecaster action. Man, so how long have you been playing guitar? Let's just start there.
Man, I've since I was 9, so about 21 years. I'm 31 now, so I think that's 21 years.
Nice.
Enough to buy a beer, I guess. But yeah, man.
Yep.
Since I was 9 and just been, I got the bug young, and at a super young age, I was like, man, this is all I want to do. I just want to play guitar and figure out whatever I need to do to make that my reality. And that's kind of what I'm living right now, for better or for worse.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's great. So did you take lessons, or you more just self-taught over time and just kind of watched people play and then picked up stuff and created your own style?
Yeah, I started out taking lessons when I was like 9, 10, and then I had teachers in high school I took from, and like one teacher in particular really kind of showed me everything I needed to know to like become an actual professional musician. And like that guy, his name's Shane Green. Love that guy. He's like one of the guys I mention all the time. That is like pretty much the sole reason I'm doing music for a living right now. And I've had a great mentor, great teacher. But yeah, studied with him, and always going out to shows and watching videos like Steve Ray Vaughan play and like Van Halen. See my Van Halen tattoo.
Nice.
Huge influence on me at a young age. Like I was a big 80s metal hair guy, and
little Poison, Who else? Motley Crue.
Oh yeah, I went to go see Motley Crue in middle school too. Might have been maybe one of the most raunchy shows I've been to.
I bet. Yeah.
But man, just got the bug young and kind of. Well, I look back a little bit, but more or less never looked back. I was like, man, I'm gonna play guitar for a living, and that's what I'm doing. Love
it. I like you pointed out, and your mentor. You said Shane Green is his name.
Yes, sir.
So Shane Green was a mentor to you, and like how big of an impact and like how important was that to you to have like a mentor like that to help bring you along and kind of show you the ropes?
Man, it was huge. like I would for sure not be a musician still if it weren't for this guy. And he did so much for me too, just not even music alone, like kind of, you know, showed me not what it means to be a man or anything. Like I'd like trying to figure out how to phrase this, but he like, he was the first, I grew up Catholic. He was the first guy who showed me like you can have a personal relationship with God. And
Mm,
our lessons were like about life and music. And he showed me
yeah.
that it was possible to be a musician and also like a good Christ follower, in tandem. And man, just really great example. And yeah, he got me my first gigs. He got me my first tour gig, and that's how I got my foot in the door with the whole touring thing. Is because of him. He used to let me sub in his band when he couldn't make it.
Mm,
And then eventually, when he was tired of being on the road, he was like, "Mike, do you want to do this gig?" And that like really was the tipping point for me to become full time musician. So it's that
wow.
guy, can't say enough good things about him, and it's super important figure in my life too. And he was never a drug abuser or anything like that. Didn't drink a ton, so it's really good to have him as a. I mean, even though I kind of went the opposite way, but it was always good to have him to kind of look to, like, man, that's what I need to be like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind
I love it. Yeah. No, thanks for sharing a little bit. And, um, and I asked that specifically, number one, because I wanted to hear a little bit about like what that was like for you. And then I also want to point out the fact of, there's so many dudes out there, and I'm sure a lot of dudes who listen to this show, who've struggled with things in life, whether it be alcohol or go down the list of different things, childhood stuff, issues with their father,
yeah,
right? Or maybe they didn't have a great mentor, they didn't have a great role model growing up, and I see it all the time, including with myself, like struggles with with a positive figure in their life, and
right,
so when we're looking to whether it's quit drinking or we have dreams to play guitar for a living or whatever it is that we're doing, especially if we're making changes, it's so important to have a mentor. It's so important to have somebody to talk to bounce ideas off with, and not maybe just one, like even a group of people, whether it's a men's group or your church or your 12 step meeting or just a master, whatever, just a group of guys that you trust. And so I just see that so often dudes are trying to do stuff on their own, and it's so hard. And it, most of the time it doesn't work. So just kind of wanted to hear your take, maybe elaborating on that a little bit more, maybe dude, like just the impact of other people and just, being in
yeah,
community.
man, absolutely. Like so much of my career now is like I'm only here now because of other people who have helped me and like show me, not just in sobriety but just in music and in life, just hey, like this is the right way to do things. This is how you act, this is how you prepare for a show or a gig.
Mm,
And man, I think about that too with my two sons. It's like I can only hope and pray they have, I mean, outside of me, I hope they think of me as a mentor.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
In
Of course.
some regard, at least. But I think it's always cool to have folks in your family, but then eventually gain a mentor who's in the same field that you want to go into, and
Yeah.
that role can have such a huge impact on your success. And I can definitely attest to that 100% because having my mentor Shane, like he's still my mentor, dude. Like him and I are work together all the time. We get each other gigs. We play on the same shows a lot, and he'll sub for me. I'll sub for him on shows. But even him, like it's still when times are tough. Like he's the first dude I'll call to like
Yeah.
kind of keep me from going off the rails. So it's good to like have that super steady, like no matter what you can call this person and they'll
Yep.
steer you right, like no matter what you're going through. But yeah, that's something I really pray for my boys too. And I can see it in a lot of my peers' lives who kind of are a little off the rails right now. It's like they don't really have that person kind of
Yeah.
holding them back to a true north, I guess.
Yeah. You're right. It's great to have that feeling of comfort, because it's not if some crap happens, it's when. Like we're all going to go through something at some point, and it's like I'm not going to be able to do it on my own. My first thought is I'm going to pray to God about it, and I'm just going to give it up to him, but I'm also going to need to talk about it with somebody. And as much as like my wife and I too, we have a great relationship. We can talk about things. But dude, as a dude, you need other dudes who are going through the same stuff, who are fathers, who are trying to make a living, who are trying to, live life and be good leaders. And to have that person or a couple of those people that that you can hit up in a moment and they're going to listen, man, is absolutely huge. And to your point about your boys too, it's funny, like Cash, for instance, like I'll just use an example of baseball. And he's pretty good about listening to me. And like, I like to think that I'm one of his heroes. He's told me that before. So that makes me pretty proud and happy. Right. But at the same time, I'll tell him to do something like in baseball and he won't listen to me. And the other coach who he respects and likes will tell him to do the same damn thing and he'll do it right there, So you're going to run into that. And that's actually healthy. It's a healthy thing to have different coaches and leaders and stuff in our boys' lives as we kind of move forward,
Absolutely, yeah. Have a whole tribe of men raising them up, and
Yep.
you always hear about raising your kids. The phrase "it takes a village," right?
Yeah.
So it's a whole network of good folks. The more good folks they can be around, the better, and the higher
Yeah.
chances of success for sure.
All right, so let's switch gears here. I got a question for you. That something you said that made me think of this. So I want to hear a little bit more about your drinking career, like what that was like where it took you, and then how you got sober. Because I know that some folks out there probably want to hear some tips and like what you've done and what's worked and what hasn't. But let's kind of kick it off like this first. You mentioned like your mentor Shane kind of taught you how to prepare for a gig and stuff, right? So that kind of got me thinking preparation is huge in whatever it is we're doing. Like I had to do a little bit of prep today before we started the podcast, right? Like just a little pre-production stuff. So whatever it is we're doing, we're prepping for it. So when you were still drinking, what was your prep like for a show before you go to work? And then when you quit and like today, what is your prep like when you do it sober? Like what's the difference and how much of an impact like has it had on both ends of the spectrum?
Well, man, that can be a kind of a two-part, I guess, answer, I suppose, because in my career, like my full-time job with Pat Green that's a that's a very specific role I play with him. But then I also have a ton of other gigs I do, whether it's like other fill-in gigs or playing in church or a studio gig.
Mm.
But I guess I'll kind of focus on the Pat Green touring thing right now. But when I was drinking, that gig is so cush. Pat is so old school and awesome. Like he treats us like freaking rock stars. In that we don't have to do anything all day until we play our show. So say our show is like 9 p.m.
Mm.
We can either be hanging out at the hotel or the bar or on the bus all freaking day because we'll get to town at like 6 a.m. usually or like 3 a.m. We always drive in like the night before. But, when I was drinking, we'd probably get off the bus, wake up 10 a.m., go get some brunch, get like 3 double screwdrivers, get loaded, then sleep it off, wake up in the afternoon, go do it again,
Ugh.
go back to sleep, wake up feeling like absolute hell. You have a
Ugh.
show in 2 hours, and you're like, God, how am I going to get through this? So then you just get loaded again and go.
You got to keep going.
Yeah, man, God, I do. There's certain towns we'll play in. Like we just played College Station like 2 weeks ago, and that town in particular was. I think I literally got drunk like 3 times in the same day. It was like so
Sleep
freaking
it off.
miserable. It's
Yeah.
like just bloated, red face, just feels you're like
Just feel
hungover
terrible.
day, and then you just keep it rolling. But yeah, I'd say that was pretty typical for sure. Is it's if you want it to be an environment where you want to get screwed up the whole time, you absolutely can do that. I mean, as long as you can, play your parts to the show.
Yeah.
And there's been times where I was, I mean, embarrassingly enough, absolutely hammered on stage. And, I'm very thankful for those guys for not firing me. I mean, they probably should have. But yeah, that was a more often than not a reality in my drinking days with this gig. But, now it's, it's more of an effort in finding ways to stay busy throughout the day. You
Mm.
know, it's even if you're not drinking, if you're sitting around like scrolling social media all day, like that makes you feel crappy too. Or just like the isolation of a hotel room for me doesn't
Yeah.
do anything good. Like just feel depressed. So, staying focused and trying to get out and exercise or go hang out with some of the other members of the band and we'll just uh, either play tunes or work on songs we got to prepare for other gigs and then lately Pat's been having me do the merch too, so
Oh, nice.
I set that up and man, it's great. It keeps me busy and it keeps me focused from
Yeah.
going off the rails for sure. But yeah, that's a big difference out there for sure. Is I would just kill the whole day just drinking and being a jackass.
Yeah, I was gonna say because like a lot of it just sounds like boredom to some extent. Like there's just not you're sitting around waiting all day to go to work, and you don't really have anyone holding you accountable if you don't want to. If you don't, and so you can kind of do whatever. And so I could see how you could get caught. And you're in a town that you don't really know anybody probably, and it's like, what are we gonna do? Let's go get
Alcohol.
hammered. Like, yeah, like yeah, I could totally see. And so is that? Would you say that? I mean, I guess you could kind of argue like any industry, but just since we're kind of speaking of the music business and that whole industry, is that pretty common, do you think, like for a lot of different artists and
I
crews
feel
and
like
bands?
that can be super common. I mean, I
Yeah.
know a lot of guys who are. I mean, even the guys in the same band as me weren't, all drinking like that. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I made that choice to go
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like these guys were still productive, would have like a glass of wine and just like be a normal, respectable human. But it's like it's the option to be an idiot is always there for sure. But yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a
No, that's
second.
okay. No, I was just saying like kind of that is that kind of a normal thing, throughout the business, throughout touring. And I mean, I guess it all depends on who's who and what their
Right. It
what their
always
game is, but
depends on the camp you're in, or the camp. I mean, whatever band you're working with. There's some camps out there that don't let you drink at all on the road, which is probably a good thing, and some camps that say you can't drink until you get on the stage.
mm,
And it's every different touring group can be different with what they allow or not. Like I know there's other touring gigs out there where they party, like I had just mentioned, but a lot of times they're throwing in some hard drugs in the mix, and
mm,
if your boss is cool with it, then you'll probably be doing it too.
yeah,
It's I guess it all like from the top down, like whatever your camp will tolerate, I
yeah.
suppose.
If your boss is cool with it, that's funny, man. You just reminded me of an old memory I've never probably shared before. And I used to do tile work back in the day, and I was just a helper, and we were on piecework. And so you showed up. I think this was out in Antioch. We were working on a big housing development out there, but we'd show up, early, like 6 a.m., and our boss would come meet us usually in the morning, and he'd just line us out with like just fat lines for the day. Here you
Oh,
go. Yeah, just get out. And he would do it too, and then we'd just get after it all day. We'd take a break, and that was for lunch. The same thing, lunchtime, right? Same thing. Finish up at 5, and like he was like promoting, and I'm not blaming it on him. I mean, it was my choice too. But like, I can see how if you have, I don't use the term bad, but if you have questionable leadership who's making decisions, based on their own issues, dude, it's so easy to fall into that, no matter what trade you're in or what business you're in. And it takes a lot of, I guess, want and strength and, to make those changes yourself. It's just hard, I'm saying, to do it on yourself if that's all around you all the time. It's got to
oh,
be
sure,
tough.
sure. And man, the thing about my gig now, it's like it's not even like it was all the way all around me all the time. It's just like, it's not even like they were necessarily allowing it. I just kind of knew I could get away with it
Yeah.
as long
Yeah.
as I
Yeah.
wasn't so drunk. I could at least play my parts on the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, you know, you do that enough and you play show, like a lot of times when you're in a band, you play with other bands, like you're on festivals and tours with all these other artists too, and then you start to like kind of garner a reputation as kind of being the drunk jackass. And
Yeah.
I kind of, quickly, you know, became that. And I think like everyone who met me in my 20s like has seen me just absolutely brain dead drunk at like one one point, or like everybody at one
And
point
that,
or another.
and I imagine that's, I mean, I know that's not good for business. That's not what a professional does. And you definitely probably, you're not going to have a long career if that is your long-term reputation. So it's awesome that you saw that and you were like, you know what, I got to make some changes.
Oh yeah, man, I think getting older and like having a wife and a kids, it's like, dude, my wife is at home with my two kids
Yeah.
going through it while I'm out here on the road acting like an idiot. Like I just felt like an idiot too. And man, I don't know if it like got so bad to where folks were saying that, but I remember one time in particular, like I showed up with this new band, I was subbing in with them, and before we well, after our sound check, he like pulled me aside. He said, "Mike, please don't get drunk tonight. Like I know that's like your thing. Like just
Yeah.
please, tonight's a big show for me. Don't get hammered." And I was
Mm,
like, "Damn, dude, to have this guy who's younger than me pull me aside and like have to
mm,
talk to me like I'm a child." I was like, "Shit, man. Like, okay,
yeah.
like I've become that guy. So it's time to." Well, even then, I didn't dial it back then. It's
Still
more,
took a little bit.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Um,
Well,
yeah, it's
hey, I just want to say though, thank you for sharing that too. That's a vulnerable spot to be in,
oh
like to be able to admit that and stuff too. I mean, and that's what this kind of stuff is about. Like for the dudes out there listening who are going like, damn, I've done some dumb stuff too. Like I've done some stupid stuff. Mike's done some stupid stuff. Like we've
yeah,
all done it, but holding it in and acting like it's not there and acting like it doesn't exist and trying to move on and cover it up with more alcohol and more, life stuff that we're not dealing with, that doesn't help anything. And that's why there's programs. That's why there's groups. That's why there's podcasts like this. Like, that's why there's so many resources out there and really dudes coming together who are like, I'm tired of this shit. Like, I don't have to fall into the normal drinking, bias that to be a man, you have to get hammered and freaking live that life. Like, yeah, maybe when I was 25, it's a little different, but as we, like you mentioned, as we get older, man, we have families and like we want to be good at our professions and we want to be good human beings, and we can't do that if we're drinking literal poison all the time.
yeah. No, it's tough, man. And honestly, if even wasting my career away, I'd probably still be drinking if I was single and didn't
Yeah.
have any kids. A huge motivator for me was to like keep my family together, and
Mm,
not subject my sons to being drunk idiots. Like
yeah.
the classic excuse of, "Oh man, my dad drank like this, like so I'm gonna do it too." It's like I don't want that for them.
Yeah.
That was a huge motivator, and I like, yeah. I mean, looking at other single guys who maybe don't love their job, hate their career, and they drink a lot. Sometimes I can be like, I don't really blame you, dude. Like, which
Totally. I
maybe that's
100%. Yeah.
the greatest thing to say, but it's like I got a lot to live for. I got a lot to lose. So it's booze was the number one thing. Like all of my problems for the longest time just directly stemmed from me getting hammered. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh
So it
yeah.
was a pretty easy decision.
Well, like I always say, I've said it many times on this show. I'll say it again. I've still never met anybody who says my habitual drinking habits have really improved my life. Like I've never heard it, and I probably never will. I don't imagine. And to your point about dudes hating their jobs and being in a tough spot that they're not happy with. And so they just drink. Like, it sounds like you've been there. I've been there too. Like I did construction before I did podcasting and coaching for a living. Like, and it was absolutely, I learned so many things in it, but I had such a bad attitude at that time in life because I just hated the position I was in. And guess what? I put myself in that position. And guess what? God pulled my ass out of it. Thank God. And then I was able to get on a path like where I started to make some changes. So like, if you're feeling stuck out there, like do something about it. Like, don't just sit back and like, you have options and it's possible to make changes. I know it's tough sometimes, but like, we can be our own worst enemy. Like, did you experience any of that? Like your own worst enemy kind of, feelings of just kind of that whole thing where we just almost, it's like self-destruction is just in our nature sometimes.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's kind of my default setting, is to just self-destruct. And, family will hold you accountable to get out of that too once you have other mouths relying on you. But yeah, honestly, like the move that I made out of the service, transitioning back to doing music full time, was really tough because, in the military, for those that don't know, I was in the Air Force, but I played guitar for the Air Force band. I was active duty, whatever, all that. But that's one of the few jobs as a musician where you have like ultimate security, like insurance. You know how much you're going to make every month. Pretty damn hard to get fired. I think even if you get a DUI now, like they can like still keep you in or something.
Oh wow.
But ultimate stability, going in back to music. My quote unquote salary, whatever income was just like slashed in a quarter. And I basically just had to rebuild from there. And I was just like so stressed. And, I turned to alcohol to kind of numb it out, and, did that for a little bit, moving back here, and just, man, it's so easy to do. And I would act like an idiot. And another problem with that is like I'm so goofy whenever I'm drinking. You know what I mean? It's like for me, it's like, oh yeah, you were hammered last night, but you were hilarious. So for me, it was always
so
easy.
You're a happy drunk.
Dude, to everybody but my wife. Honestly, it's like,
oh man,
my wife was probably the only person who's ever like seen mean, pissed off, angry, drunk.
Yeah.
And that's the one person that matters the most, right?
I know. Isn't that crazy how that happens? Like, yeah. I mean, I think that happens a lot for a lot of dudes in that same situation. Like, we hurt the ones we love the most, which is strange,
I know. And like, I think I got married at like 25 or 26, I think. And I think being younger, and I guess by today's standards, being younger and being married and being drunk, it really made me look how easy it was to be that drunk asshole husband. It's like, damn, like I'm that guy. Like my wife is like bawling her eyes out, telling her friends about what a big POS I was, hammered, and like the mean shit I said, which is hard.
Yeah,
hard
it
to
is.
admit. Most of the time, if I was that mean, like I was blacked out drunk, so I didn't remember any of it. So I would just, wake up the next day like, oh shit, like what happened last night?
What did I do? Yeah.
Yeah, and then if your wife doesn't talk to you for 2 days, then you're kind of like, okay, I guess it was pretty bad.
Well, I gotta say that our wives are friends, so and love them both. Obviously, you and I like, and I gotta say that if it wasn't for them, you and I would probably be face down in a gutter somewhere right now. So thank you so much, ladies. Like we love you, and like thank God, because man, I know that's been a huge motivator and huge support, for our family and stuff too. And one thing you said, dude, was you talked about your boys and, showing them like being a leader, being their hero and stuff. And like, you're changing like that generational curse by choosing to cut that stuff out of your life, dude. And that's amazing. Number one. And, what was it that was like, was there like a final like incident, or what was it that kind of made, I know it kind of went back and forth a minute, like for a lot of us it does, it takes a few times, but like what was it finally that stuck, that kind of did it for you, where you were able to just stop and get some time over a year under your belt?
Man, I think I had tried being sober like a couple times where I got like 3 months or something under my belt. And then eventually, like I guess so excuse me, I'm kind of working out this answer in real time here. But
Yeah, it's all good. Love it.
for me, if you scroll through social media, you'll see all these like sober accounts, and I feel like a lot of what they sell is true, but they don't really mention not the negatives, but the reality of it. Like for me, with all the majority of my problems stemming from being a drunk idiot, I was like, okay, the magic pill to fix my life is to just stop drinking.
Mm,
So then I stopped drinking,
yeah.
and then life would still be life and be
Yeah.
extremely difficult. And then I think man, I vividly remember. I think something happened on a gig. Is like we had just moved back to town or to Texas, and something super stressful with a gig or something. Like I thought I was about to like lose a bunch of work and not be able to pay rent this month or
Mm,
something. But I was like, man, f this. I quit drinking. Shit is still so damn hard. I'm
yeah.
drinking, and
Yep.
that took another like 8 months from me. Just that one day, you know what I mean? Um, so trying sobriety, realizing it doesn't fix all your problems. It makes your problems a whole lot easier to deal with. But I think like the third time, I guess this is my third attempt to be sober. Is man, I really didn't have like a any run-ins with the law. Thank God. I should have for sure.
Mm,
I didn't do anything stupid or act out in my marriage or anything like that. Or I'm just trying to think of other reasons people kind of hit rock bottom. But there's really no like huge like job loss or
yeah.
relationship loss or anything. It was like it was my 30th birthday. I was like, let's do it up big tonight and just leave my drinking in my 20s. And
Mm,
that's kind of what I did. And I think the last night of my 30th birthday, I had like maybe one of the worst arguments I've ever had with my wife. I was on the road. I think I was like in Louisiana or something. It just one of those get drunk 4 times in the same day type things. But man, I was just so sick of it, just feeling like
mm,
crap. I mean, I had gained like 35 pounds after leaving the military. None of my clothes were
mm.
fitting. I was like, dude, I'm just a fat, drunk asshole. Like, I don't want to
Just a
be this.
fat drunk asshole. Oh man, that's, yeah, dude, that's so funny, dude. It's like that's the reality of it though. Like that happens to so many of us. Like
Yeah,
I feel you, and I'm only laughing because I feel you. Same thing. It was like so out of shape, so
yeah,
unhealthy. I'm just like, dude, what am I doing with my life right now? Why? You
yeah,
know? Gosh, it's
yeah.
crazy.
I mean, I lost. I think I lost like 30 pounds when I quit drinking. I still gotta. I haven't been working out the last month. On I hate to admit, but yeah, dude. Anytime, I feel like that's a huge benefit of sobriety is like being able to stick with your workouts and not be too
Yeah,
hungover to go in. So it's just like I definitely
100%.
tap back more into that. I've been slacking lately for sure, but yeah, honestly, it's just money troubles, feeling out of shape, overweight, horrible home life. It's like all of that has been pretty much alleviated from
Yeah,
quitting drinking. Like my marriage has never been better. I have a freaking savings account now. I paid off all my credit cards. I was like,
nice.
I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was going to spend like $150 a night at the bar or something.
Yeah, adulting, man. We're adults now.
I know, I know.
We have to be responsible, and I share that same thing with you, bro. Like I think I had like, because I had tried to stop a couple times before it finally, like I had to go to rehab and it stuck. But like I think I had like 25 days at one point, and something happened, and it was the same thing. I was like, man, I quit drinking. I thought my life was supposed to be great. And then now this shit happens. Like, I'm going back to drinking. And that's like, that's a common thing. And that's not the point of it. Like drinking is like the face of it. That's like the solution that my short-term solution to my life's problems that I don't know how to deal with in a like healthy way. And so, back again, programs, groups, people being like, those are the things that we get to work out when we start to realize like, okay, like, man, there's another way, there's another path. So what's been working for you? Like, what are some tips out there? Like I had talked to so many dudes who are like, man, I just want to get to a year. Like, I just want to, and they're kind of stuck in that back and forth thing that you and I have both been in. Like, what has been working? Like what hasn't been working? What advice or tips do you have?
Man, for me, I feel like I just kept drinking for the longest time and, being an idiot. Uh, what what kept me from staying sober, it was just opening my mouth and having these conversations with other, men in my
Mm,
life and saying, "Hey, man, like, you know what? I've got a drinking problem. I don't want to drink anymore." And telling people to then hold you accountable. Like, once you open your mouth, it's like, I can't go look this dude in the eye
yeah.
after getting hammered the night before. Like, to me, that was a huge thing because I think I'm always been kind of like a natural, like, wanting to please people and like have my peers respect me. And like, I just, as soon as I quit drinking, I freaking told everybody close to me. I was like, dude, I quit drinking because for me, at least, the humiliation of going back to all these people and being like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, I'm drinking again. You know what I mean? For
Yeah.
me, opening my mouth and finally putting myself in a position to be held accountable by people I respect
Mm,
was probably one of the biggest ones for sure. Because, man, I, honest to God, I've probably only been to like 3 AA meetings since I quit drinking. It's not because I have anything against it or anything. I just, man, I work every night, and a lot of times I've got a gig during the day. It's just, I honestly, I have not made that a priority, and I need to for sure. And I think what keeps me from going back to drinking is that I know, I mean, God willing, I'm only freaking 13 months off of it. Um, just one day of making an exception to drink, I know it's just going to be like 6 months of me making an exception for the next day. It's
mm.
like, okay,
That's
today
good.
sucks. I'm gonna get hammered. Like, whatever. It's a special occasion. Like, we just got back from going down to the beach with my family. I was like, man, it'd be pretty sweet to have a couple beers right now. Like, that feeling never goes away. I don't
Yeah.
think, or at least a thought. Like, you're always gonna have that.
Yep.
Um, but just knowing for me personally that just this one day of drinking is ultimately just going to open up Pandora's box. And then for me, it's like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to stop again. If I
Yeah.
start, I don't know if I can, because it's like so daunting. It's like, okay, now I have 13 months. Okay, that took a long time. Imagine being back down to day one. It's like,
Yeah.
then in those shoes, like 13 months seems insurmountable, you know?
Yeah. You don't
So
want to have to take a step backwards in all that, and
yeah,
that's hard. That's hard to swallow. And like the accountability thing, man, is huge. Like it's so big, like you said. And have you ever played poker before? I don't know if you're a poker player, like Texas
yeah,
Hold'em
I
or
have. I'm
whatever.
not very good at it, but yeah,
Yeah.
I have.
But you've played, so you know how to play. And I don't know if you've been in this position. I would assume most people who've played some poker sometime at one point or another, you know, you got to push your chips in, because if you're in a tournament style, you're going to end up getting just blinded out. Like eventually you're going to, so you have to take some risk at some point, and hopefully it's some calculated risk, and you're trying to figure out what cards are out there. And at one point you go, man, I'm all in. I'm
Yeah,
all in on this. And I don't know if you've had that feeling before. It's a little bit of like, it's almost like a little rush, and it's almost like a little bit of relief too. Cause it's like, screw it, I'm just going for it. That is a similar feeling that I can like share. The first thing that comes to mind, of what you described right there too, of saying like, I'm done and I'm going to tell this person and that person and that person that I don't drink anymore because I'm pushing all my chips in right now because I'm freaking done with this crap, because I know the power of it. The power of it is so it's overwhelming that if I don't do that and I keep it a secret and I keep trying to do it on my own, I got this, I'm going to do it. It doesn't freaking work. It
Right.
doesn't work when we do that, you know? So you got to push your chips in. And that's kind of, I feel like what you did in that moment for that accountability. And it sounds like it's worked, you know, well so far for you.
Dude, absolutely. And I think back now, I don't even remember if I told my wife that I was done drinking forever that day, or like, I think for me, you know, I'd already had those conversations of waking up hungover.
Yeah.
Oh God, what did I say? I don't remember. And it's being like, oh, I'm done. So I think maybe it might have been a month or so of like what's like they say the best apology is change behavior. And I think a lot of times
Mm.
our wives would rather see our behavior than just hear kind of
Oh yeah.
half words to make them
Yeah.
feel better that they have seen me fall short on before. So,
Yeah. It's true.
um, but yeah, and honestly, I'm in like so many different environments. I feel like socially, um, with regards to drinking, sometimes like if I'm in an environment of dudes who don't know that I'm sober anymore, they want to go get a drink. I'll just like say something super outlandish to like be why I'm not sober. Because sometimes I don't always feel like having that conversation. Like I'd just rather be like, okay, like I don't drink. I don't
Yeah.
really want to make a big deal about it with you right now. Clearly, that's what you want to do. So I'll just say something stupid like, I think it's for like Russell Brand says it in a movie or something. He's like, if I have even one sip of alcohol, I'll suck the pants right off you or something.
Just something completely asinine.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's whatever works, and you you got to just try a bunch of stuff. And if you fail, like no big deal. Just get up and try again, man. You got to
Yeah.
keep like there's no like one catch-all way to do it. Like you have to find out what works for you and your personality. And
Yeah. That's
right
good.
now, what I've been doing has been working for me, and it's a huge blessing for sure. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place with my
No,
response
you're
there.
not. No, you're not, dude. That's right on. That's right on point. That's good stuff, man. Well, dude, before we wrap up today, any thoughts or like what you kind of went into what's working, what's ahead, man? Like what is it look like for you out on the road and stuff too? Do you have like a routine that you do now that kind of helps to keep you in line? I think we talked about it a little bit, but is it exercise? Is it just trying to stay busy? I think you said you're doing the merch table too, which helps. And my point to this is like when we take on commitments and we take on other things that we're being of service to other people in other situations, that is very helpful in getting out of our own minds and our own brains and able to, you know, stay away from alcohol, especially if we're in a situation where, you know, or if we're in a career where there's, you know, we're at bars, clubs,
Yeah,
restaurants, like parties, like all that kind of stuff. We still have to be around it sometimes. So what does that look like for you?
man, and I regret that I didn't mention him earlier, but I'm not gonna say his name or anything. But another guy in the band I'm with or in is is sober too, and he has been a freaking huge help in me being sober. It's like because we're kind of in it together. So I think
Yeah.
just building up that community of sober guys, right? And I feel like, man, the second you meet another person in your same career or situation in life that is also sober, it's like an immediate brotherhood. So just
Yeah.
up my communication with them. And for me, it's I don't always do it every day, but just getting up and getting my big fat nose in the Bible really
Mm,
helps kind of
heck yeah.
keep a good head on my shoulders. And honestly, that it's like now that so many folks know I don't drink, it's it really keeps me in check because I have like I do not want to humiliate myself anymore. You
Yeah.
know?
Anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's great too. I mean, as a career musician and trying to continue to, you know, tour and make music and create good relationships with other people in the business, like being sober and being a professional is like such a huge asset too, to whether it's different bands or record labels or whatever it is that you're dealing with, like just people in general. That's huge when they know that. They go, oh, that dude's sober. Yeah, he's more than likely, he's probably pretty damn reliable. You know, I don't have to worry about him getting shit-faced on stage and playing the wrong song or not playing or whatever, you know? So that's huge, man. You have a lot of things to, you know, to look forward to, and especially with your kids, man. You have a beautiful family, by the way, too, bro. I just want to tell you that. Yeah, dude, super, super blessed. And I always love chatting with you and hearing like what's going on in the Tuck family, and you know, just hearing you play guitar too, man.
Oh, sorry. Say the last part one more time.
No, I was just saying I love hearing you play guitar. I love on Instagram, and your, you know, we'll put your music in the show notes and stuff too, so people could check it out. But go ahead. I think I cut you off a little bit there. What you were going to say something.
And we're having another kid here in 2 months too, so getting ready for that. Yeah, pretty wild. Let's say I think I actually put a freaking beer drinking song on my last album. I don't know if I said that. It was actually
that's funny.
By my buddy Zane Williams. It's called "Sweat on the Guitar, Beer on Stage." Super good, like chicken picking song. Super fun.
I'll definitely check it. That sounds like a good one.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for having me, man. It's you know, I think I like whenever you stop drinking, you kind of daydream to get to talk to it or get to talk about it to a lot of people. You know what I mean? So it's, I hope some folks can kind of glean some information on what's worked for me. Maybe it'll work for them, and just hope to spread the sober love, man.
Yeah. Thank you, dude. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing. And, you know, before we wrap up, any advice for someone out there who's struggling right now? They're listening to this and they're just going like, man, I really feeling what Mike's saying. And, you know, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. What would you say to him, Mike?
And just reach out to anybody in your life, you know, that you can talk to. Like, don't hold that information in. If you're like really struggling, like get help. Like there's no shame in that. Reach out to me, you know, hit me up on Instagram. It's at Mike Telly Tuck. I'd love to talk to you and seriously be of service of any way I can, honestly.
Yeah. Love it, man. Well, thank you again so much. And we'll put all the links in there so they're easy for you to find. And Mike, it's been great to have you on the podcast, man. Thank you, bro.
Heck yeah, man. Thank you for having me, man. It was an honor.
Thank you. I hope something spoke to you today. You can share the podcast with a friend. That'd be great. Connect with us on Instagram at That Sober Guy Podcast. Always a good time. Peace, love, and respect. Keep your blood clean.